bananas.
Clear the air lanes for the big broadcast.
We're not professional podcasters.
Say what?
We barely know what we're doing,
It's funny because it's true.
but we have fun anyway.
I'm here to podcast.
Does everybody know what time it is?
We're going streaking! Yeah!
No, we're not. It's time for movies, pop culture, and more with the all-new Culture Cast, starting now.
I'm the Gorehound,
I'm Jen.
I'm
Nope.
Nick.
and we're off to a good start. We are the all-new Culture Cast, back for the latest edition of Kevin Smith Month.
Snoochie boochies, bitches.
Getting in
I'm
the spirit,
prepping
I like
us.
that.
I'm prepping us.
This is a first-time episode. We are doing we're not only reviewing one podcast, we are reviewing two podcasts in this episode of the all-new Culture Cast. So a little bit
It's
different.
a podcast episode about a podcast. It's like Seinfeld, the coffee table book about coffee tables.
Yeah.
No one knows what I'm talking about.
I was really too young.
You're not a Seinfeld fan?
I don't know. I feel like I never quite got into
Are
that
you a
show.
Friends
I feel-
fan?
So I did end up watching Friends, but I watched Friends like my senior year of college after it had already gone off the air.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had all the DVDs, and so like my senior year, rather than like contemplating getting a job, I decided to like watch the entire show, of which I'd never seen an episode. So like yes, but no. Like I wasn't a Friends fan when it was on the air.
I'll take it. I'm not the biggest fan of Friends, and I prefer people.
I
to
think
watch
it
Seinfeld.
works.
Because I find Seinfeld to be a lot more culturally rich. It deals with a lot more things that just happen to us, rather than just the drama that happens in Friends.
Here's what I'm going to say about Friends. I think I benefited from watching it all on DVD and seeing like the expanded episodes, because there's so much you miss when they like, now they just cut like everything. So the episode's like 21 and a half minutes or something, but like on the DVDs, the episode's 35 minutes or something. So you're missing a lot of plot. And it really was a show before its time in that it had a lot of like long running plots, before you really had like as much serialization in TV, like compared with something like The Golden Girls, which I loved, but like, they never even, I think, clearly defined how many children anybody had or how many like cousins these people had. They just kind of always had a son or a brother, to pop out of the woodwork if they needed it.
Jen,
But-
as much as I want to talk about Friends, this is Kevin Smith month, so
I
have to cut you off. I'm sorry.
I also want to talk about The Golden Girls. You know what? June is my birth month. I can't wait to see what I do for June.
Oh no. I'm on vacation.
Mandatory Golden Girls.
You and the Kiwi should have a podcast about the Golden Girls, because she too is also a huge Golden Girls fan.
Okay, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't entirely understand the nickname of the Kiwi, as she is not from New Zealand.
I don't know exactly.
I thought it was a play on her name.
I'm sure it's partially a play on her name. To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
Let's leave it a mystery.
Wait, no, hang on a second. Hang on, hold on. Hey, Krista, can you come up here?
Oh no. I guess we're about to have this mystery solved.
We are. I just called her up here.
All right.
I love it.
We're going to get her in here to explain
All right.
this.
I have to say, this is a very, very bad start to our Kevin Smith
Nick.
podcast review.
Or is it?
Nick,
Well,
your
actually,
wife isn't Kevin Smith, right?
Right, but we're in the spirit of Kevin Smith's podcast, where they just talk about random stuff.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
I'll roll with that.
So, okay, she just entered the room. So, okay, we need to know something. They want to know why you go by the Kiwi, what the significance of where that came from.
Really? It's... Hello, can you hear me?
Hey,
Hi.
Sarah. Hey, Kiwi.
Hey, Gorehound. It's not like a great story, but it started off when I was in high school freshman year English class. Our teacher wanted to know our names, and we had to say a letter, a food, that started with our first initial. And I was put on the spot, and the only thing I could come up with was ketchup. And my friend Monica, who was sitting next to me, said meatloaf. And we're like, oh, man, like, these names suck. So then afterwards, we're like, hey, we should be like the kiwi and the mango. So that's just kind of like how we went for years, just calling each other kiwi and mango.
Okay.
That's actually really cute.
Yeah, that's a good story. I'll take it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
I suppose you bought Nick back now, right?
We don't really need him back if you don't want.
I mean,
Well-
do you want to talk about Jane Silent Bob Get Old and Hollywood Babble-On?
I'd love to, but I have to go wash my hair.
Filthy hair.
Don't lie to the gorehounds.
I love Golden Girls. I've seen like every episode 10 times.
Yes!
I've never seen an episode.
No.
Podcast, The Golden Girls.
You know, George Clooney was on an episode of The Golden Girls.
Yeah, so he was also in Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah, but he played Sophia's grandson in an episode, so there.
Well, he was in a movie called Return of the Killer Tomatoes.
Well, he was on The Golden Girls, so there.
Alright, whatever.
This is just gonna go around
Just
in
get Nick.
circles.
We don't want to talk with you anymore.
Okay, Nick, they don't want to talk with me anymore.
We're done.
Done.
All right, I'm back.
No, we abandoned you for a podcast with the Kiwi.
No, that's fine. That would have been A-okay with me. So, anyway, so that's the Kiwi story.
Alright.
Anyway, I guess we should probably get somewhat on topic.
All right. Yeah, I'm not sure if we've mentioned it, but yes, we are reviewing two podcasts, Jane Silent Bob Get Old and Hollywood Babble-On. But before we get into that...
What have you been watching?
Yes, I have update on that. I watched, the Kiwi and I went to go see, just the other day, the Lego Batman movie.
Oh yeah, it's doing well, isn't it?
Yeah, financially it's doing pretty well. Critically it's doing pretty well. But we were kind of let down by it.
Yeah.
We were kind of expecting it to be, I don't know, better. I mean, I liked it. I wanted to like
Compared
it.
to the Lego movie? What would you say?
I think so. Like, I wanted it to be, I wanted to like it more. Because that Lego movie from 2014, I want to say, 2015 maybe?
I remember that being like a 5 out of 5. That was really good.
Yeah, that was like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And maybe my expectations were up too high, but I was sort of disappointed with it at the end of the day.
That's too bad.
I think all the kids in the audience, which, yeah, it's a kids movie, I think they enjoyed it. So if they got something out of it, great. It did not strike me the way I wish it struck me.
Yeah, but like, kids are dumb, right?
They are.
Jen, how about yourself?
So, you know, I'm on my Oscar death race, and so I've been watching a lot of movies, and, you know, I've hit a lot of the big contenders. I've hit everything in the Best Picture except Hell or High Water, which I will watch, but I just have to, like, sit down and make myself do it. But I watched Captain Fantastic, which got a nomination for Best Actor, and oh my god, like, this is like, you know, those like Bernie bros who are still hanging around, like, you know, Bernie would have beaten Trump, which, like, first of all, no, and second of all, like, shut up, it doesn't matter, it didn't happen. And this guy is like the Bernie bro of, like, this is like the Bernie bro movie, you know what I mean? It's about this guy who, like,
He looks good.
no, here's why I hated it. It's about this guy who's like he's got a wife and he's got kids, and they all like live in the woods for some reason because he decided to like turn his back on society and like raise tiny leftist children who could also like kill deer and like eat their hearts in the first scene of the movie for some reason.
Hardcore.
Right. So anyway, and then the wife, you know, who's got very severe depression, ends up like killing herself. I mean, you find this all out within the first like 10 minutes of the movie. And, you know, they want to go to the funeral, but then of course her parents, you know, are not very pleased with him and, you know, how he's raising his kids. And so then of course there's this like very smug scene where he like is hanging out with his sister on the way to the funeral. And, you know, they're like, you should put your kids in school so they can be socialized. And he's like, okay, I'm going to prove that my kids are smarter than your kids, and like proves that his kids are smarter than their kids in this like very smug way. And it's just, it feels like this like fantasy people have, like, oh my God, I could just take my kids out of school and then they'd become so smart because I am so much smarter than the teachers. And like, that's probably not how that would work if you took your kids out of school, because you probably don't actually know how to teach them. And I don't really think this 8-year-old knows so much about the Bill of Rights. Like, it just felt like a very like a movie written by somebody who was like, I would like to make the point that like we can be better than society. And I was just like, oh my God, this is exhausting. Like, I just hate this movie so much. I did watch the whole thing. You know, it was one of those movies where it's like, well, okay, I guess I understand that people liked this, but I would not have picked this for like one of my top 5 male performances of the year, like at all. So, but I do know it was very popular when it came to Sundance. Like, I got a 10-minute standing ovation at the end. So, you know, maybe I'm out of step. I don't know. You know, Gorehound, you got to watch the movie. You think it looks good. I need you to watch the movie and then get back to me.
Well, yeah,
and
it's
then
got Viggo Mortensen, and after Viggo Mortensen did that naked fight scene in the shower room in Eastern Promises, he's pretty much, you know, golden by my book for the rest of my life.
Okay, I don't know what any of that means, but let me know what you think.
All right. As far as what I've been watching, I've been playing a lot of video games, Skyrim in particular, but that's like super boring.
You're back to Skyrim, huh?
Yeah, I got it on PS4, and it's just it's a perfect game for me. I can just, you know, sit down and just play my dark elf and just conquer the world. So it's very addicting. But as a follow-up, last week, Jen, I had mentioned, like, I could think of 2 movies that were placed on an oil rig, and you were like, I highly doubt that. You remember that?
No, but it does sound like an argument we would have.
Okay. Well, I tried to recall that, because I was like, I can think of one, and I realized that I was getting them mixed up with, like, isolated ocean movies, whether it's like a submarine horror movie, or something like a Deep Blue Ocean, Deep Blue Sea type movie.
Okay.
And so I actually like went on a pursuit to find oil rig specific movies, and I found one. And so I went out to go out and rent it, and I watched that one. It's called The Rig.
Obviously. It
was very difficult to sit through, and I wanted to make it through the entire thing, but at like an hour, I was like, holy shit, this movie is so long and boring. So I could not get through it. But while I was out, because I actually had to go to like a legit video store to rent this.
Yeah.
And so I
is there one?
Yeah, it's President Video in Wheaton or Carroll Stream or something like that. And so since I was there, I've kind of got a list of like movies that I want to watch but will never be available on Redbox. And so I got one, and it was called High Tension. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have said this is like one of the best horror movies, or it makes a lot of people's top lists. And so I got it. It's a French horror movie, which was pretty legit. It's a bit outdated. I don't know what year it was made. It was maybe made within the past, like, 90s, I would say. Late 90s. But I probably wouldn't recommend it. It had a good twist at the end.
Okay, I have a question. In terms of games we can play with you, can we just throw random stuff at you and then you tell us if there's a horror movie yet? Like, is there a horror movie with, like, killer horses? I bet there is.
Killer horses.
Nay.
The one that's coming to mind is, I think it's called, like, Of the Dead. It's one of the George A. Romero's, where it's on, like, an Irish island, and they're doing experiments on, like, people and animals, and I think that there was a zombie horse. Zombie animals are actually kind of, like, an obscure part of the horror genre, because there's not a whole lot of true zombie animals out there. It's been very few, because most of them are just, like, diseased, or it's very obscure, because you see a lot of true zombies, but not a whole lot of actual zombie animals. So, but I love the challenge.
All right. See, I thought I was going to stump you with horses. We'll come back to this next week. I think this is something that we should pull out every so often.
I'll take the challenge, yeah.
Because, frankly, it's just absurd, and I hope one day we can stump you.
I I watch a lot of horror movies, but I also have a really bad memory. So, yeah. Nick, what's the next topic?
The next topic is everyone's favorite segment, Man Crush.
Man crush.
Mark Maron! Second time around, Mark Maron. This week has been kind of a push. Or a stretch, I should say. Nobody has really done it for me this week. But in particular, there was one podcast that just tipped me over the fence. Mark Maron did a podcast with Ryan Adams, who... Are you guys familiar with this musician?
You mean the guy from, like, the 90s who sang all those, like, ballads?
Yeah, I think it is. He's been involved with, I think, Oasis and Grateful Dead or something like that. I don't know. I've never really got into him. I know that the Graveyard Queen really likes him, and she has a whole bunch of CDs of his, but I never really, gave him a chance. But I listened to this podcast just because I was like, Ryan Adams, Mark Maron, Graveyard Queen, The Gorehound. Let's do this. And so I checked it out. And it was a really good podcast, and it just really made me appreciate both Mark Maron and his ability to interview. He doesn't interview, he just has conversations with his guests. But he really had a good connection with this guy. I like I said, I didn't know much about him beforehand, but the podcast really brought out a lot, and I felt like I connected with him a lot because he honestly just seems like a regular guy who makes apparently very good music. And I'm coming at this from I know nothing about him other than my wife likes him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would definitely recommend that to anybody looking for a good podcast.
Before we move on to like the topic du jour,
I
had a question for Jen.
Yep.
That I meant to ask last week when we were talking about Jay and Silent Bob, and I forgot to, so I want to follow that up. In Jay and Silent Bob, Ben Affleck played 2 roles in it.
Yes.
Were you confused by that at all?
Oh, he does play 2 roles. I didn't realize that.
I think maybe there was like a minute of it, but then I kind of realized what they were doing, and I was like, all right, well, that's the thing that's currently happening.
Because I guess I asked because one of the things that always struck me as odd is that Ben Affleck's character that they meet at the beginning is the character he played in the movie Chasing Amy, and in Chasing Amy, Ben has like a huge goatee on that his character has. And
that goatee looks so bad. I hate it.
And I'm surprised they didn't like have him grow it out again or just use a fake one to differentiate the fact that he was playing a different character. Yeah. That they kept him clean shaven in both. And I always thought that was an odd decision, especially since another actor who played 2 characters. I can't think of his name. Jason Lee. Jason Lee. Yes. Played the comic shop guy at the beginning, and one of the producers of the movie at the end. And he looked completely different because they're, again, 2 characters he played in prior films. And so I was just curious on your take if you were thrown by that at all.
No, I mean, I got it. I guess at some point you run out of famous friends, like.
So you still hate Kevin Smith is my impression now, right? All right.
Yeah, you don't want to change up your brand midstream, but yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, I didn't really think too much about it. It seemed fine. I didn't realize he was playing a character that already existed, like in the Kevin Smith universe. I was just like, oh, that's Ben Affleck. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess knowing they played another character prior to is not important for the movie at large. Like, it's not like, hey, remember that time when you did this? It was more of a case of, they just acknowledge the continuity, like the whole Avengers thing. But anyway, I was just curious.
Let me just say one thing. I will say, if I were trying to, I'm not somebody who, sits around and, casts imaginary movies in my head. But if I were going to cast, a comic book creator, I don't think I would ever think of Ben Affleck. He wouldn't even be in discussion.
Well, to be fair, this was when Ben Affleck, when he was originally cast in these movies, was when Ben Affleck was not Ben Affleck. Like, he wasn't the big high-end A-list.
Oh, right, before he was like really successful.
Yeah, like pre-J-Lo Ben Affleck, where he was still an up-and-coming actor where, you know, no, he does those silly movies, and now he makes Oscar award-winning films.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, I guess we should probably, I don't know, Gorhan and Jen, we've been kind of babbling on about a whole bunch of stuff. We haven't actually talked about the topic of the night.
Yeah. I'll give a summary of what these podcasts are briefly. Jay and Silent Bob is the podcast. It's an accountability podcast that was started 4 or 5 years ago to help Jason Mewes battle his addiction because he was addicted to alcohol and drugs. And this was a good way for Kevin Smith to keep him on the clear by basically saying, how many days have you been sober? And basically, have you messed up? And it keeps him accountable because he has to, confess this to an entire audience. Because both of these podcasts are recorded live most of the time. Sometimes they have like a one-off at one of their places. So yeah, that's basically it. And throughout Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, they just jibber-jabber and do a few recurring segments. But it's about an hour and a half generally. So... and then Hollywood Babble-On is Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman recorded live at the Hollywood Improv. And that's a much more diverse show where they do many more different segments, have a lot of pop culture references. It's live, and they talk with the audience quite a bit. So as you're listening to it as a podcast, you can't really see the impressions. Like, they'll pull up a photo of, like, Justin Bieber being an asshole, and as a podcast listener, you can't really see that what's going on, but everybody's laughing, and it must have struck gold or something like that. So
I have a question. Do they later? So I know that can be. Do they like post pictures of what they posted during the actual thing? Do they post those on their website or something?
I think so. Generally, they do. I don't often.
I've never
look
once
at them.
looked at a podcast website, but like, I always just wonder.
Yeah.
And then I don't look them up.
Right. I don't find it that it's really necessary to know exactly what they're talking about because most of the time everybody else is talking about it and you've already seen it beforehand. Nick, let's start with your impression. What were you thinking of these two?
It struck me as a radio show. Like, when I drive in the morning, I turn on, a talk radio program, the Eric and Kathy Show on 101.9, The Mix. And it pretty much was that, only with more cursing and more... the pop culture topics were slightly different, but, the vibe was there. They had their goofy little segments. Obviously, they even had, I won't call it a call-in sort of thing on the Babble-On one, but, they had, questions from the audience. So it struck me very much like a morning radio program, but without the music there.
Yeah, Ralph Garman is a radio show host during his,
Has he been in anything? I could not figure out who this guy was.
Yeah, he's in a few movies, but I think that he's primarily just a voice actor and a really great radio show host for K-Rock in California.
And the Jay and Silent Bob one, the thing that I took away, the same sort of thing, but obviously, they're just telling stories about their misadventures. Like when the one I had listened to, Kevin Smith was almost arrested for pot, and then he was solicited in a parking lot.
That was good. I like that one.
Which is kind of like, where is this show going?
Right, it doesn't have a direction, and that's part of what I like about it is that it's just they just talk about just Kevin Smith repeats stories quite a bit, and so you hear the same story over and over and over. But it kind of fine tunes it, and it used to bother me that he would repeat the same story. But then I realized it's a story nonetheless, and I like to hear stories, so I like it. But yeah, that almost getting pulled over was good because I could feel the intensity of if that was me, how I would feel, and it just went from A to B to C to D, and it just kept on going. And
I feel the Jay and Silent Bob one is very much tailored to people who like Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
if you didn't know who they were, or you didn't see any of the movies, or you were Jen,
Right.
you would listen to this and be like, who are these idiots? Why am I listening to them? Who are they?
Yeah, because Clerks and Mallrats is the hook that makes you want to listen to these podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the one thing I took away is how old Jay sounds.
Yeah?
Oh, I know the show is Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and I know he's been on heavy drugs, but oh my gosh, he sounds like he's an 80-year-old guy. Drugs will do that to you. Last time I saw him in any sort of way was, I don't know, whenever the last Jay and Silent Bob movie came out. It was like about 10 years ago, and he still sounded like Jay and young and normal sounding. And now Kevin Smith still sounds like his actual age, but Jason Mewes sounds like he's death warmed over.
Well, he's very old.
I don't know exactly how old he is, but I'm
He's
not
gotta be
sure
in his
it's. I'm not sure if I've noticed like a stark contrast because I've
His
been watching
voice
him.
is so raspy.
Because I've been watching him in whatever movie he releases every few years, so I've been kind of keeping up with him. So I guess I haven't seen that change, but I could see where you're coming from with that.
Like, I mean, I guess I just haven't listened to him in a while, so it's like, whoa. Like, it sounded like him, but it sounded like, I don't know.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I was entertained.
Yeah.
It's nothing I feel like, okay, I saw it or listened to it. I have no desire to go back to listen to them.
So you wouldn't listen to any repeat podcasts?
Well, like, I have no desire to go back and listen to the back catalog or future episodes of either one. Because I feel the stuff that they talk about in the Babble-On one, like, I read about that stuff, it kind of pops up on my pop culture radar, so I kind of know what they're talking about, and I don't care what their thoughts are on it, I guess.
Yeah.
The Jason Mewes one is kind of like, okay. The only reason you're famous is because you're Kevin Smith's friend. But, Jen, what was your thoughts?
Okay, so let me just preface this with a question. I have to ask. You guys are both dudes. I'm not a dude.
Bruh.
Right. So, like, in your estimation, like, are blowjobs funny? Like, I just like when people say the word, or like when someone suggests that somewhere someone has gotten a blowjob, like, do you laugh?
Depends on the context and execution of the joke.
But, like, is the fact that they exist just inherently funny to you? Or does there have to be a joke around it? Like, could I just, like, call you up one day and be like, hey, blowjobs, and then you just start laughing, and then I would just hang up, and then I would be laughing.
If you did that, yes, I would laugh because you're calling me saying blowjobs and hanging up.
Right.
That would be funny because I'd be like, what the hell just happened? And then I'd tell my wife and be like, Kiwi, Jen just called me up with blowjobs, and I'm very confused. I'm letting you know so I don't get in trouble.
Right. Right. I think it would be good if you clarified that, like, this was, like, platonic. This wasn't, like, I wasn't trying to, like, solicit anything. I think you should just let her know that, because we've been friends for years. I'd be really sad if she got mad at me.
Yeah.
Well,
something about them are very funny. I don't know. It's something inherent in it. Maybe it's the name. Maybe it's the context. But yes, they hold a higher degree of humor. To me. As I don't know if as a Kevin Smith fan or just as my personality goes.
Okay. I had to know that. All right. What did I think of them? Okay. So I listened to both of them at work, and I was listening
with your
to
headphones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna play them for all of my very old coworkers. I'm like the only one in my department who doesn't have a grandchild, so I was gonna play it for them and just be
Get
like,
working.
"Hey guys, what do you think?"
What is one of these podcasts? That's my Jason Mewes impression.
That was good.
So-
But I decided against it. I put on the headphones. And okay, so here are some thoughts I had. So as I'm listening to the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so they like do this, because listening to both of them, I listened to the pop culture one first, and then I listened to the Get Old one. And as I'm listening, I cannot figure out, based on the sounds of people laughing and everything. I'm trying to figure out like how big is their audience, because like with the pop culture one, it sounded like they had a really small audience, but it's really hard to tell if it's just kind of where the microphones were placed or whatever. But then they said in the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old one that this was they were in a crowd with 1,200 people.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God. So like, how much do they charge for these podcasts, right?
Yeah.
So I go to, I just Googled like the next upcoming show. And so you can get tickets to a taping for like $30. So if there's, let's say, $30 for a ticket, maybe there are better or worse tickets, more or less expensive. You've got 1,200 people, and maybe it's not always 1,200 people, but let's just use that. And then you do 194 episodes, which is I think what they were on. You can make like $7 million just going up there and telling weird sex stories. And I just like, that is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I understand that you don't get to take all of that home, but like that is $7 million.
Yeah, the demographic that he targets is very odd, but at the same time, it's also hilarious, and I feel that it's a very well put together podcast. They've released hundreds of videos or podcasts, and if you listen to some of the, like in the early hundreds, they're not very good. But if you as they go, they retire segments, and it gets very, very good very quickly as you progress through the years.
Huh. Anyway, no. So I just had to share that because I'm like sitting at my desk, and it probably looked like I was working, but I wasn't. I was trying to figure this out, And anyway, so putting that one aside, I didn't so much mind their pop culture podcast. I thought they moved a little quickly through the segments.
Yeah.
For me, like there were a few things where I was like, okay, well, I want you to like stick to that for more than 4 minutes. But I thought it was, I liked that they had the who died this week, and not just looking at like really famous people, but looking at these like less famous people. I thought that was kind of a cool.
The segments do vary, and I like that one because they pay a lot of respects to a lot of individuals. And it's kind of like, all right, well, let's get serious for like a few minutes and talk about something that, everybody has to deal with.
So I liked that. What else did I like? So for instance, okay, so here are two things that were specific to the episode I was listening to. But they were talking about, first when he was talking about like, who would direct Batman? And I was like, oh my God, if you say you, I'm going to just like fucking lose it at my desk, right? I'm going to just explode. I'm going to destroy my computer. I'm going to destroy the old people in my department. Like I could not handle it. And then he was like, oh guys, no, there's no way. Now he said it was because he made Tusk, as opposed to like, because he's not very good at directing. So I thought that was, okay, that's a little bit of a, a cop out or whatever. But I did like that at least he said, hey, anyone who thinks I'm going to direct Batman is insane. I was like, okay, good. I'm glad we've covered this.
Yeah, and I think if you've listened to past episodes, you've understood why he takes his acting job, or why he takes his directing jobs. And you can see he really only does stuff that he would want to see, like Tusk or Yoga Hosers. Because he tried, making these big budget movies, but they didn't do well. He didn't enjoy doing them. And so he got back to what makes him happy in life, and that's, Yoga Hosers and Tusk.
And, if there's one person in this world I want to have that kind of job where he can just do whatever makes him happy and not worry about money, it's definitely Kevin Smith, no question.
And just to point out not a counterpoint, but something else, even though he does those, the occasional episode of Supergirl or The Flash, directing a TV show is very different, as I'm sure we all know.
Oh, sure.
Than directing a movie. TV show, you're kind of like a gun for hire. You're not the one. I mean, you're making sure everything gets run, the acting's on top, and all that. But in terms of the creative process, the director is not the lead guy. Whereas in a movie, the director's buck stops with him or the studio, depending. But it's much more of a responsibility on a big budget versus hey, I'll take a week and direct this episode.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the other thing. Yeah, that was the other thing I did like was that when he was talking about doing Supergirl and he was talking to, I think it was a producer or somebody, and like, okay, well, where is this story going? And he said something about like, oh, I can't really do like intricately plotted stuff. And I was just like, yes!
You admit it.
Yes! I was
Vindication!
so pleased. You know, like, overall, do I feel like we need more pop culture podcasts? We need ours. I don't think we need any other ones besides us and, like, the ones I currently listen to.
Well, I mean, after they listen to ours, who else is there?
Well, right. It's, but whatever. I mean, it was fine. It was fine. Now, once I got to Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, it felt very indulgent. I was like, I don't understand how so many people go to these to, like, listen to, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Like, that was a very long story about a time when he had sex with a random person.
Yeah! I was like, when he started
so
telling
long.
it, like, I felt like the story just came out of nowhere. And it's like, I need to tell a story, so he just, like, I'm like, what spurred this? Like,
Yeah,
really,
that's a regular
this up?
segment that always happens. Is like he'll tell this filthy sex story, but he will also tell what other filthy sex story that's not part of the segment that he wants to. But I think that it shows like where he's come from and like where he's at now, and it's a stark contrast to the person that he's become now.
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, not the story. It was interesting that, like, this is a thing that this man does. And he's, like, married, and he has a child, and he's still telling all these weird stories. Like, I was just like...
Because it's still part of who he is. It's, he did it, so he's not going to, like, deny it. But at the same time...
like, no one asked. You know what I mean? Like, no one said, like, hey, do you deny that this one time you, like, banged this random groupie, and then she, like, tossed your salad, and then... you had, like, an awkward erection. Like, no one asked. It's not like, oh, God, no, he's not denying it. Well, yeah, I mean, we all have, like, weird stories from our past, but it doesn't mean we have to podcast about them.
So, Jen, tell us a weird story from your past.
Oh, my God, no. I mean, even if I wanted to tell you some, like, really weird, gross sex story, I mean, not that I don't have any, but, like, I don't think I could go on for that long without just, like, physically dying. Hey, it's too much. It's too much. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I guess it was very interesting because I think of myself as somebody who would like to hear somebody's like weird sex story. But like, I guess I feel like the story would be shorter and full of more euphemisms. Like, I guess when you're like, oh my God, like, ladies, like, we're drinking wine. Let's talk about the crazy shit we've been up to lately. Like, what people do is they're like, oh my God, like, let me give you a very, like, like a very indirect implication of what I've been up to. And then we all go, wow. And then we drink our wine and we're all so happy. But like, I mean, no one ever just goes into like super long, excruciating details. I mean, I think it's interesting. It would spice up weddings, certainly. But, it's not a thing I do very often. So that's interesting. But that went on for a long time. And then the whole, like, there's definitely a lot of stuff in both podcasts where I was like, this would be better if I could see it, but, like, I can't. Yeah. So it's just kind of dragging.
Yeah.
Like,
and I really wish that they would release live videos of this.
Right.
But I think they only do that for a few.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those filthy sex stories is like why I can't listen to that at work, because I
didn't know.
when I first started listening to it, I would just be cracking up, and I'm like, I work in an office, there's many people around me, I'm listening to these with headphones, and I can't help myself, and so like every 5 minutes I have to like take a break from it because it's just so funny to me, and I just realized I can't be doing that because I'm distracting other people, and so I only listen to it outside of work.
Mm-hmm. I did not know that. So I was at work just like, okay, stuff's happening. Were
you laughing at it?
No.
Okay.
No, I would not.
You did not find the filthy sex story funny?
No. Here's what I did find funny. So in that podcast, Kevin Smith reveals that his brother is gay, which just adds this whole other layer to like all of my psychoanalyzing of Kevin Smith. Like, it was very interesting because based on the sheer number of like blowjob jokes that he has in his material, and like the number of jokes where like someone thinks that maybe he's interested in Jason Mewes, which like, yes, you are definitely interested in Jason Mewes. Nothing would ever convince me otherwise. Like, it's just absolutely fascinating to me, right? Like, I was just like, well, this is a whole new layer of things to think about. So I'm like trying to figure out what this means. And then all of a sudden this story starts happening. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm at work. Oh my God, maybe it'll end soon. Yeah. And it just kept going.
Yeah, he talks about that occasionally. So it's not the first time that he's breached it. And Jason Mewes actually just started a podcast, Blowhard, with a gay guy. And I forgot his name. But apparently he's like, he does set design or sound for Kevin Smith movies. So he's still in the, View Askew universe, just behind the camera. Okay.
I also discovered through this podcast that Jason Mewes has like directed some stuff, which I think is
he just started.
Interesting. Like he had Terry Hatcher in one of his movies, and I was just like, oh my God, like how in the world did this like mediocre man
right, and it's all due to Kevin Smith for lifting him up.
Absolutely.
Right, and it's just crazy how big of an impact Kevin Smith has had in Jason Mewes' life. Yeah, just to see where he's going with that on a weekly basis is very rewarding, I find. And it makes you, and it kind of elevates, or it changes his status from just a celebrity to somebody that you feel that you know.
Oh, no, I don't feel like I know him. But anyway, it's just really, really weird, like, how such mediocre people can be, like, lifted up like this. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And they also do this on a weekly basis. So they know what works well. They know how to get, like, a good audience reaction out of a story. So they've had practice on this. And so it's not just, like, these are just, like, regular conversations. These are fine-tuned conversations.
Right. For which they have made $7 million. And that's just one podcast. Yeah. I don't know how much they've made on the other podcasts, because they never said how many people were watching, but like, oh my God.
And also keep in mind they sell ads, as Jason Mewes occasionally popped in to hawk whatever item, like Blue Apron. I guarantee you he's never eaten a Blue Apron meal ever.
No.
It's so great, I could just cook it, the portions are there. You've never actually had it.
I don't often find, I mean, like, you get kind of used to ads. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? And so, sometimes, like, especially when I'm listening to, like, my murder podcasts or whatever, there's like, some big emotional, like, and then suddenly they're just like, also, what if you had Audible? And that can be, like, really disorientating. But, like, I don't know what it was about those Jason Mewes, like, ads. I was just like, this is, oh my God, like, what is happening to my head right now? It was so weird. I think I just don't really like his voice.
Yeah, he's trying really hard to being like a character sort of thing.
I don't know. There's something about his voice, especially when he was doing the ads, where I was just like, this is like nails on a chalkboard. Like, I don't usually, like, play with my phone and, fast forward through ads, but I had to. I was just like, this is too much.
I mean, I don't think he's, altering his voice. I think he's just a very weird guy, and that's just who he is now.
It didn't bother me as much during the actual podcast, but yeah, those ads, man, those are rough.
You'll remember the ad, I suppose.
I should mention that they are, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old are coming to Chicago. And I actually have bought 2 tickets, so I will be going to see that in the next few months. I have never met Kevin Smith or Jason Mewes. I saw Jason Mewes speak at I believe,
C2E2.
Yeah, C2E2. I ended up missing the autographing opportunity, but I ended up seeing him give a talk or something, and I just didn't want to be one of the crowd who runs up, takes a photo, and then runs away. I kind of just wanted to take it in and see how he interacts with everybody. So,
who are you dragging to this? Is it your poor wife or someone else?
Well, I invited Nick, who is still determined, because it is unfortunately on a Thursday night. So that's offer is still open, but the Graveyard Queen will come with me.
Thursday nights in Chicago is really tough.
Right, and I could see why you would bail on this, because it's Kevin Smith, and I hold him on a much higher pedestal than you do, and so I understand you wouldn't want to do that, but like this is like close to like my bucket list is to see Kevin Smith.
You should try if he does the. You should try to volunteer if they do the sex acts thing to get up on stage.
Oh, you know I will, but
when he says like, what do you when he says what do, you got to plug the show. Be like, well, I'm a podcaster for the all new Culture Cast. You should listen to our episodes.
If he called me up on stage, I'm not sure I would be able to speak coherently.
Oh my god.
He would be like, totally he would be like, so what do you do during the day? I'd be like, I have a cat.
You have 2 cats.
Yeah, and I would just like freeze up.
Mr. Smith, I'm a big fan. Can I get your autograph?
Pretty much.
Would you ask for his autograph, or would you be like, just having this moment here with you is enough? Like, I could...
Oh, yeah, honestly.
You're autographing my heart.
Well, you should let's bring it all full circle. Gorehound, you should either ask to receive or offer to give a blowjob.
Absolutely.
And that
would show that, oh yes, he is a true listener. No, because honestly, if I saw him, that would be like enough for me. I wouldn't want to be just one part of the crowd, or just like be another person that kind of bothers them during a live performance. Just seeing him would be enough. But if I did have the opportunity, I would probably just tell him how much of an impact he's had in my life and have him maybe sign my book or something like that.
I used to run a Fortune 500 company. Now I run an amateur podcast. You're my inspiration, Kevin Smith.
But yes, I will plug our podcast if I get the opportunity.
Nice. And invite him on.
Oh my gosh.
It could be like, one of our co-hosts, Jen, would love to talk to you about some things.
Absolutely.
She will stab you through the microphone.
I will have so many questions. I'm not gonna lie. I would love that. I would love that so much. It would. You know what? And to me, that would be worth it. If Gorehound has to give a blowjob to get this guy on the podcast, I don't mind. And if he wants to give us a big, long monologue about what that semen tasted like, you know what? I'm down.
Well, okay, hold on. You said that Gorehound would have to give him a blowjob, but then Kevin Smith would talk about what the semen tastes like.
No. The Gorehound would describe. The Gorehound would do that for our podcast.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about some snowballing going on here, but
Oh no. I mean, or maybe it does. I mean, maybe that's where that goes. But we won't know until the monologue.
I just realized we've become the very thing you were complaining about. We're making blowjob jokes.
I hope it's the funniest goddamn thing that anyone's ever heard.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to add on to Kevin Smith podcasts. I mean, we could keep on going, but it would just be rambling. Rambling.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, you have any closing thoughts?
No, I do have some trivia, but hang on one second while I load up the trivia.
Yeah.
Jen, you do your closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts. Like, okay, you know what? I listened.
You're never going to listen to a Kevin Smith podcast again, right?
Never again. Even
the Frasier review podcasts?
Okay, I don't believe those are real.
They are.
Frasier. I did watch Frasier, but not enough to recall the names of episodes or the plots of them.
Okay, I doubt that you would like them because they're difficult to get through, and it's pretty much just him and one of his friends just talking about these episodes.
Sounds great.
They're both very high. And no live audience. So
if there's one thing I think makes anything funnier, it's when people are actively stoned. I think.
And when you're not there.
That's very funny. I don't have to be stoned. You know what I mean? I just wanna listen to stoned people record very self-indulgent podcasts. But okay. You know what? This guy has found his niche. He has made $7 million on these podcasts. And you know what? I guess it's work if you can get it,
Yeah, and he's very good at it, too, because he records these every week. He routinely is selling out this Hollywood improv place, which, please bring it to Chicago.
Right. Kevin Smith, if you're listening, don't bring it to Chicago. I want the Gorehound to be sad. I want him to be very sad.
Right.
But I think okay. Well, I guess he has succeeded at this thing he set out to do.
Yeah. All right. My closing thoughts is that this is Hollywood Babble-On is one of the best podcasts out there. It might not be the most well put together, but it is one of the first few podcasts I started listening to and really got me interested in other podcasts. Because
it was your first podcast?
Jay and Silent Bob, I started listening to. That was like the first podcast that I started listening to, and then I kind of ventured out and I hooked onto Hollywood Babble-On, and I got like much more hooked onto that one because it was funnier. It had a lot more diversity to it, talking about like current events.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay and Silent Bob Get Old doesn't really have a whole lot of reoccurring segments, and it's Hollywood Babble-On is a better podcast than Jay and Silent Bob. I think that's pretty objective. So, yeah, I enjoy them very much. They are hilarious. They are very raunchy, but
very raunchy.
I'll take it.
I guess my final thought, because I do have a final thought now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Gorehound, I see where a lot of your ideas for our podcast originate from.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's where Gorehound got that idea from.
Yeah. I could see that bleeding through quite a bit.
Wait, so was the man crush of the week originally called like Guy I Want to Blow?
No.
Maybe it should be.
It will be.
No. I forgot to mention. I believe the best segment on Hollywood Babble-On is talking about how big Liam Neeson's cock is.
No, I didn't even understand that. That felt like a warmed over. What's his name? Chuck Norris joke.
Oh well, no. I mean, because Liam Neeson. No, he does have one of the largest members in Hollywood.
Okay, wait a second. How do you know that?
A universal fact that everybody knows. I'm pulling Trump here, okay? Your closing thoughts.
Are those some alternative facts we got going on? All right, so let's move on to our trivia.
It's trivia time.
It's trivia time.
Okay. So, this is Jay and Silent Bob related.
All right.
So, when Kevin Smith was making Mallrats, this is his second movie. He got some acclaim with Clerks. So the studio is more interested in doing Mallrats because now Kevin Smith is a name. He could do some stuff. But he was also under a little bit more scrutiny because that's what happens when you start to become a little bit bigger. The studio did not want Kevin Smith to cast Jason Mewes as Jay. They wanted him to recast the role. Smith ultimately said no, and Jason Mewes was cast. However, the studio had in mind this particular actor to play the role. Was it A, Adam Sandler, B, Tom Green, or C, Seth Green? Which mid-90s popular-ish actor did they want to cast?
Okay, I'm going to say, number one, it was probably Tom Green, and just throw them all into the sun. And point number two, which I forgot to bring up during the podcast, but I just want to say, I don't know what's going on with Kevin Smith and Ben Affleck, but he talked about him a lot that week. Yeah. A lot.
Lots happening with Ben Affleck that week.
Probably because of all the Batman stuff going on.
Right, but so apparently they don't talk anymore. That sounds like a more interesting podcast.
Oh,
Gossip
I'm sure
to me.
The story that I heard was they used to be buddies, And then when Ben Affleck married Jennifer Gardner, Gardner didn't like Kevin Smith. And so she kind of, over time, forbid Ben Affleck to hang out with Kevin Smith. So they just kind of drifted apart.
Oh, thank God.
I didn't know that it had anything to do with Jennifer Garner. I thought it was just that they drifted apart.
I'm sure there's truth in both. That's the part of the rumor that I had heard, that Jennifer Gardner, because Kevin Smith's like, I don't know what happened. I thought Ben and I were good, but whatever. He doesn't seem to hold a grudge, but, whatever. Anyway, so, Jen, you're saying Tom Green?
Yeah, and I'll second that.
You're going to say Tom Green as well?
Yeah.
You're both wrong. They
different.
wanted to cast Seth Green as Jay. Smith refused, but he did agree to audition other actors, including Seth Green and Breckin Meyer, as the role of Jay, just to satisfy the studio before casting Jason Mewes anyway. But apparently the studio kept Seth Green on call just in case Mewes needed to be replaced at any point in time.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like Seth Green.
Who is
I don't mind him.
Breckin Meyer?
What's that?
Who is Breckin Meyer?
Breckin Meyer? I don't know. He's an actor who no one knows anymore.
No, but he was like really big in the 90s.
Yeah.
What was he in? He was in Clueless.
Breckin.
He's in Frank and Dash.
Oh, okay.
Franklin and Bash.
Oh, yeah, that TBS or TNN show from a couple years back.
Yeah.
He was in Road Trip. Ugh.
Breckin Meyer. Oh, Road Trip.
I don't know why I thought you didn't like that movie.
Tom Green is, I think, a forgotten legend.
Well, he's forgotten, and we could be thankful for that.
Yeah, he had his ball removed.
And on that note, I think we should wrap up tonight's episode. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next week with a more standardized episode with hopefully less sexual innuendo.
Yeah, last Kevin Smith movie of the month. So, and then we could, do whatever Jen wants for like the next 6 months to make up for it.
Yay! All right, Golden Girls podcast, here we come.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you for being my friend. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's get out of here, everyone. I'm Nick.
I'm the go-round.
And I'm Jen.
We'll see you next week, everyone. You've been listening to the all-new Culture Cast, one of Chicagoland's finest podcasts.
Fall asleep to death.
Blog at znculturecast.wordpress.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by Ben Saltwater Production. Copyright 2017. Thanks for listening.